I think one of the hardest things about change is knowing that it's something you don't want. You don't have the element of choice. Let's say someone breaks up with you, someone that you love dies. There's a career you really want that you didn't qualify for.
Najwa Zebian,
educator, speaker, and author, known for empowering individuals to embrace change and lead authentic lives.
On top of that, we want our ability to accept the change to come easily. That's why you hear people saying things like, other people are going through so much worse. Why am I struggling so much with this change?
Authoring several acclaimed books such as Mind Platter, The Nectar of Pain, and The Only Constant.
It is so much harder, I feel, to be in the uncertain or to be in the place where you're stuck.
The reason they feel stuck is they're holding on to their past life, which is their current life. They stay up at night thinking, this relationship isn't serving me, this friendship isn't serving me, my family isn't being good to me, the job I'm at doesn't respect me. I know I need to leave those places and those people, but I don't know how because I'm too scared that there might not actually be better out there. What will I do with what I lost, and how will I get what I lost back? It's hard to stay in your place and it's hard to move forward. Which hard do you want?
What's the protocol to move past?
The protocol is,
what don't they tell us?
They don't tell us that.
Najwa, every single person listening to this podcast is probably going through some sort of change. They're either their ability to embrace change or their inability to embrace change. Why do you think, if change is such a constant, as per the beautiful title, and one of the only constants of our lives, why is it such a big resistance in most of our lives?
I think one of the hardest things about change is knowing that it's something you don't want. You don't have the element of choice, especially if, let's say, someone breaks up with you, especially if someone that you love dies, especially if there's a career you really want that you didn't qualify for, a program you really want that you didn't qualify for. Or maybe you got fired one day, and it's not so much that we're not okay with the fact that life is ever changing. It's the fact that it's a change we didn't want. And on top of that, we want our ability to accept the change to come easily. That's why you hear people saying things like, other people are going through so much worse. Why am I struggling so much with this change? That person lost their whole family. That person was married for 30 years and they got divorced and they dealt so well with it. Why am I dealing so badly with this big change that came into my life? Like, I should be able to do better. So there's that element of being hard on yourself and expecting that change is going to be easy. Expecting that the acceptance of the change is going to be easy. But it's not like that.
Why do you think for some people it seems like it's easier than others? Is it their perception of the change, or do you think change is like a muscle? They would have put themselves in change maybe more often than the other person, that because they know what it feels like, it no longer feels like there's resistance. They know what's possibly on the other side. I wonder, what do you think it is? Is it more of the fact that they have done it enough, now they're resilient to it? Or are some people better equipped for change than others?
The first thing I'd say is I wouldn't believe every person who comes across like they deal well with change, because many people put on a show. They would rather you believe that they are dealing well with what life is throwing their way and suffer internally without telling anyone than show you or other people that they are struggling. That's the first thing I'll say. But for those who genuinely feel like change isn't this big, scary thing, and they actually welcome it and embrace it, and they have that mentality of, well, I don't know what life is going to throw my way. Maybe this thing that I think is bad might turn out to be good. I think that comes from a place of survival, where they see change as a way out of their current situation. So they like that life for them isn't stagnant. We talk a lot about, there has been a lot of talk recently about avoidance in relationships, right? Avoidance are people who, as soon as things get really comfortable and really close, they want to escape. They want to run away. So for an avoidant, for example, change, such as being broken up with, making the decision to break up, making the decision to move somewhere new, to them, that's actually something that they want because they are running away from that closeness. So to them, it's for survival. They need change. They need people in their lives to change, and they need the people in their lives to change. And they need to change themselves, because the moment they feel like they've gotten discovered, like the other person knows how they operate, they feel too known and too seen.
Too
and
naked, basically.
Yes, too naked, too, you're bearing your
Exposed.
soul out to the world. So to them, change is seen as a good thing. But think about a struggle of a person who hates change, somebody who's anxious, or somebody who really loves stability and security. And change comes their way and they're like, I really hate that. It's for survival, because to them, something new is scary. And for the avoidant, something not new, something old is scary. So for both of them, it's for survival. So it's not that one loves change because they actually love change and they're living authentically and they're embracing life as it comes. It's the same thing. That's why when it comes to relationships, I always remind people, just because somebody comes across as they're so nonchalant and they don't care and they always have the upper hand, they always have the power in the relationship because they don't show that they care, it doesn't mean that they don't actually care. It could mean that they are just afraid of what expressing their care would mean about them in their own eyes and in your eyes as well. So going back to the topic of change, for some people, it's out of survival that they embrace change so easily. And for others, it's out of truly wanting to explore life in different ways. And for those people, they do understand that there is a price to pay for what you get when your life changes to what you want it to be. And that price is your old life. You pay your old life, your stagnant life, your safe life, in order for you to move forward into a new one, right? So the feeling of stuckness that many people feel, like they know they want their life to change in a certain way, but they feel stuck. They can't do it. And the reason they feel stuck is they're holding on to their past life, which is their current life. It's like they want that thing, but they don't want to let go of what they have because it's safe, it's secure.
It's familiar.
It's familiar. What if this thing that I really want, what if I can't get it? Then what will I do with what I lost, and how will I get what I lost back? So that's why people feel stuck. They know what they want. They stay up at night thinking, this relationship isn't serving me. This friendship isn't serving me. My family isn't being good to me. The job I'm at doesn't respect me. I know I need to leave those places and those people, but I don't know how, because I'm too scared that there might not actually be better out there. So that's why you go through that loop. You're stuck. You're up all night thinking about things. You wake up the next day and you think, I'll make it work somehow, or today's the day that I'm going to end this thing or leave this job or do whatever. And then the moment comes and your knees start shaking and your whole body starts shaking and you're like, I can't do it. And it's just...
There's, when they say ignorance is bliss, it's actually so fitting here, because when you don't know any better, when you don't know what's out there, when you don't assume the grass is greener, sometimes that ignorance doesn't create that resistance, which is in that phase where you feel stuck. And I always said this, that I would rather, it may sound harsh, but I feel like there's a reality to it, that I would rather be in a relationship where I find out that the man I love no longer wants to be with me than be in a relationship where I feel stuck, that I don't want to be in that relationship and I don't know what to do about it. I don't want to hurt the person I'm with. I don't know if I leave, if it's a better decision, if it's not. That decision, a huge life decision, lies in my hands because of, and I may, and we're not talking about toxic here. We're talking about I'm unhappy.
Yes.
So it is so much harder, I feel, to be in the uncertain or to be in the place where you're stuck. So how to navigate that, right? When you are in that situation, I'm sure so many people listening are probably feeling that. It's easy when easy is not the right word, but you know what to do, whether you choose to do it now or not, for whatever reason. You know what to do if you are the one being mistreated, if you are in a relationship that the person next to you doesn't love you, doesn't treat you right. You know what to do. Now, how you navigate and what you do about that, that's up for discussion. But when you're the person that wants out, or you're the person that wants to leave the job that is paying you so well, and you're like, am I an idiot? I have 3 kids. Am I going to leave now and just, gamble my whole family because I want to follow my passion? How do you navigate stuck?
Sometimes it is easier when the decision is made for us, right? When it's easy, when something really bad happens, you hear people say, I would rather get cheated on. And that way I can say, I'm leaving because I got cheated on, versus everything is fine. There's nothing bad, but maybe there's nothing good. And then people look at you from the outside in and say, you're being too selfish. You are hurting your family. You're hurting your kids. You think you're better than everybody else because you think that there's something better out there, or you're spoiled. They will judge you in those ways. But the hardest part is when you judge yourself, and when you judge yourself in that way and say, maybe I can't leave unless things are really, really bad. Like maybe that's the right way to be. And so I would say for anybody who is in a situation like this and they're not sure, like they know that this place that they're in or this person that they're with isn't the ultimate ideal dream of what they want. And it's not to say you're with somebody or you're at a job that's like 99% perfect. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's 30% perfect and you know that there's so much more that you can get, whether it's the job, the relationship, the whatever it is that you're going through right now, I would say what you have to do is decide either way. It's not just about deciding to end one thing and go for the other. Sometimes it's deciding to stay in the thing that you're in.
Fully and commit.
Yes. So you make a decision either way instead of being stuck in that place of complete uncertainty. And I'm sure you've heard this before where I don't know the exact wording, but the meaning of it is you make the decision and you make it right. Whatever the decision is, you make that decision the right decision for you because you chose it and you are the one who's reaping the consequences, good consequences or bad consequences. The worst place is to be in that uncertain place where you don't do anything and you constantly feel like there's a tug of war between you now and your future life that's knocking on your door and saying like, please leave that person, please leave that job, please leave that friend group, please do this. And you're feeling like you're betraying yourself. And at the same time, there's something about those people and what they've offered you that is saying to you, but what about everything we've taught you? What if this could be better? What if you need to change your perspective? To be stuck in that place it's a mix of self-betrayal, self-abandonment, self-judgment. And I'm not going to say it's a mix of not knowing who you are, but maybe it's a mix of not willing to sit with yourself long enough to discover what it is that you actually want and that you are willing to live with. Sometimes when you make a decision to walk away from something or someone, it feels like it's so foreign to you to not have that place or that person in your life. It feels like it's scary territory.
And you
Like,
don't recognize who
you
you
don't
are anymore
yeah, you don't
without that thing
y
or that person.
yeah, you don't recognize who you are anymore, and you also go through this phase of questioning yourself and your judgment. Like, could it be that you're the person that is being addressed when people say, the grass is always greener on the other side. Like, you say, what if I'm the person who always thinks that the grass is greener on the other side instead of watering my own grass?
Mm.
But then at the same time, there are people who really need to walk away. They really need to start a new chapter in their lives, and they question themselves and say, what if I'm not watering my own grass? But the truth is that they've overwatered their own grass. They've done way too much, and the grass might be fake. Nothing that you're giving is actually working. All of that energy, all of the nurturing, it's not working because it's not being given to the right person or to the right place. There are other places out there that would more than happily welcome everything that you have to offer. And only then will you realize that the problem never was that you are the type of person who thinks that the grass is greener on the other side. The problem always was that the grass that you were watering was not, it it took maybe 1% of what you had to offer, because maybe what you have to offer is just so much better and so much more valuable. And this grass didn't require that. It didn't require what you had to offer. So it's only when you start seeing the gratitude that other people give you when they receive all the good things that you have to give, all the good things that you have from within you, that you realize, oh, I was just giving everything I have to the wrong people. So you've heard people say, I'm sure in your interviews and all over social media, like, there is this sentiment that, this really painful sentiment that goes something like, I gave my all to this person, and now they're with somebody who doesn't even give them half of what I gave them. Or I gave my all to somebody and they still treated me terribly. Why? And it's like, I understand the pain, but at the same time, I tell people who think that way that what you're struggling with is closure. It's not actually loving that person and being in pain over why they chose somebody else. It's trying to understand why it is that what you had to offer wasn't good enough. And in other words, you're trying to understand why you aren't good enough. And it's not that you're not good enough. It's that what you had to give it was at the wrong place. It wasn't needed. And maybe it was needed, but you can't force somebody who doesn't want to do the right thing for themselves to do the right thing for themselves. You can't do that. And so it's kind of like you're constantly knocking on someone's door with all this love and kindness and belief in them and wanting to nurture them and wanting them to do so well. You're knocking on their door. They know you're there. They know what you have to give, but they don't want to open the door. Maybe your love is too much for them. Maybe they know that if they accept it from you, it reminds them of your value as a person, and they feel even worse because they know that they can't treat you the same way. So maybe they'll go for somebody who gives them less, because then they know that what they have to offer is enough for that person. So I don't know what we started talking about.
But that's amazing. I'm so glad you moved in that direction, by the way, because I know that so many people are listening to this thinking, shit, that makes so much sense. It is
the
so
truth.
true.
Yeah.
It is so true. You know, you end up feeling like you've given so much. And it's so true. Like, I mean, I've seen this throughout the years, either through my exes or my friends or even in jobs. It's not just about relationships, but you end up feeling like the person that you're giving love to, if they're in a place where they don't believe they deserve that love because they do not have a perception of themselves as
Worthy.
worthy,
Yeah.
especially, let's say, I would say even further towards men, like men that are not doing well financially, men that are not stable, who are insecure because of, a lot of it is because of money for men. I mean, it's a huge thing. And if they're not where they want to be, it's much harder for men to kind of vocalize their insecurity towards
Absolutely.
money. So they will let it out on closing off, especially from the woman that they love, not accepting their love anymore, not giving into her affection or her attention, regardless of whether they're doing well or not, because they do not feel they're worthy. Because a lot of men correlate their self-worth to money. If I have money, I'm worthy. If I don't have money, I lost respect. Nobody appreciates me. No one respects me. I mean,
Yeah, like what's love?
yeah.
What's love?
And
If
and for sure she's faking it. For sure she's pitying me. For
Yeah.
sure. I really believe that. Like, so many men are not comfortable talking about their correlation, their self-worth is very much correlated with money. With women, I think, even for independent women, I'm an independent woman, and many times I've lost my money. I've gotten fired. I had no more money. And so many times people would say, like, Tracy, you want to come hang out? Guys, no way. I'm so broke now. I can't. Like, it would just be such an easy thing for me to say. There are very, very few men that would feel safe or comfortable to say a sentence like that in front of their guy friends or other girlfriends, whether it's society's fault or whether it's their own upbringing. They didn't really have that conversation at home where they felt safe to kind of feel secure outside of money. Who knows? But so many people pay the price. So many people that are the people loving you, regardless of your social status, pay the price because they're being shunned out.
Yes, there's so much that I want to say about what you just said, but the first thing I'm going to say is I hate the idea that we take all of our anger out on the people that we love because we love them. You hear people saying things like, well, they only took their anger and frustration out on you, or they only treated you that way because they know you love them and they love you and they know you're staying and you're their safe space. That's why they are yelling. That's why they are mistreating you. That's why they are saying all these hurtful things. And it's like, I understand the comfort part where it's like they're not able to just go out into the world and let that anger out on any random stranger. But at the same time, why is it that I, as the person that you love, why is it that I am the one who gets all the anger, all the frustration, all the bad words, all the not loving things? And why is it that I am supposed to understand why it is that you can't express your love? It doesn't make any sense. So it bothers me when I think this happens a lot in this part of the world as well. I know it happens in North America as well, where I just came from right now. But I think there is a misconception out there that the reason we mistreat our loved ones is because we love them and because we know they love us and we know that no matter what happens, they're going to stay. I don't like that.
Or like, I should be able to be completely myself around you. So if I am feeling so and so way, it will come directed at you. But I can't behave this way in front of strangers. So they have a beautiful smile on their face when they're out. They can practice self-control when they're out. But at home, it just so happens to be, you end up being the punching bag.
Exactly.
And that's not fair. I totally see that.
Not fair. Yeah.
Man, I've seen this so many times. Times. Like, it's just like I'm seeing all of my friends' faces. Everybody
I know.
like
and they buy it, right? If enough people tell them this is why you're being treated this way, it's because you offer a kind of love that feels safe and uh, they feel comfortable venting to you in that way. But there's a difference between venting to you and venting all
At you.
over you. Exactly.
Exactly.
And just
Yeah.
bringing you down because they feel down about themselves.
I
That's a
think,
big red line.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think, look, it's so tricky because on one part, yes, you want the person that you love to feel comfortable and safe, to be vulnerable, to vent, to say what they want to say, to break in front of you, alongside you, in front of you,
Yes.
with you, not at you,
Against you.
towards you,
Yeah.
projecting onto you,
Mhm.
bringing your energy down. I'm also very careful. It goes both ways with my husband. I know when I'm going through a rough period, and I'm very careful about the idea of bringing the energy of the house down. Like,
Yes.
I don't feel it's fair. And I think it's tolerable and it's okay if one day I have a bad day, the second day I have a bad day. But if it's a constant energy that you're bringing because of a certain period you're going through in life and you're not doing anything to change that energy,
Mhm.
it's selfish.
Yes.
It's very selfish
Mhm.
because you're choosing to live with somebody and you're both sharing that space and that energy. And it is up to both of you to kind of find that balance that if I'm not able to give today, you could take over a little bit and then vice versa. And if I'm cocooned in my corner, it's one thing, but to kind of let it out on you.
Yeah.
I snapped at you. I'm angry with you. I'm short-tempered. I don't want to give you affection now because I'm just not myself. Like there's multiple things that could just be directed at me. So it's about me now. It's no longer about you and how you're feeling. Now you're
Mhm.
bringing me into this. Like when did I get
Yes.
involved?
Yes.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big difference between coming to you to vent about their day
Mhm.
versus coming to you and because of all the venting that they have about their day, they look at you and they say, "Hey, you're in a good mood. You shouldn't be because I'm not in a good mood, so I'm going to bring you down."
Mm.
Or, "Hey, you remind me of someone from my past." And usually it's a parent, right? And the projection begins
Mhm.
where because of all this stuff that's unresolved for them, whether it's on that day or over the years, but something in particular happened that day that triggered that, they come home to you and a word you say reminds them of something or a belief that they had about themselves or a message that one of their parents tried to project to them about themselves, and they just look at you like you are that parent and
Mhm.
all hell breaks loose on you because they're not seeing you. They
Mhm.
are seeing what you represent to them, which is, whether their parent tried to convince them that they don't know how to do things on their own and you try to be helpful and they're like, "I don't need you to do that for me," you know? And it's like, you're not, I know you're laughing because it's so common,
It's
right?
so familiar and it's so
Yeah.
common. It's like PTSD
Yeah.
happening over here.
Yeah. It's like if you had a controlling parent and then your partner tries to be helpful, you perceive it as control.
Yeah.
But like you said, if we don't take the time to heal
Or to listen, to
ourselves or
listen.
to
Why?
listen,
Why are
yeah,
these things triggering? Why do they bother me?
yeah,
You know, yeah. I think that's a huge one that most people don't listen to what's going on. And
yes,
it's all at face value. But you
yeah,
pissed me off.
yeah,
No, you didn't piss me off. Maybe it's triggering something that used to not sit well with me and it has nothing to do with you. They don't really sit with that much. Yeah, I agree. I want to say something about what you said earlier. The grass is greener on the other side
mhm,
and whatever. Um, what's a bit difficult with that is that sometimes people assume the grass is greener on the other side when it's not. Or they stay and they hold like they try to trust their own judgment and you get that feeling and you think that you need to trust your own judgment, but unfortunately, a lot of people have bad judgment.
yes,
We can't assume that if you're feeling a certain way and if this is how, you're in that position of resistance and you're feeling stuck because you're hanging on to something for way too long or you haven't moved on or changed, your gut feeling is not always the right answer. And I'm going to talk about something else other than relationships. A lot of people stick to a business idea or a plan for way too long, and they will fight till the death, trying to live up to that label of you're going to be the 1%. And if people don't believe you and they don't see it, then that means they, you have to keep fighting for what you want to do and stick with it no matter what, like it will be tough and the rocky road. And they're using all of these slogans and then thinking, yeah, that's me. But the truth is, you have shit judgment. Like you have really bad judgment. Let it go. And change is hard. This is back to change. If they worked so hard on something, they've been in it for so long, it's just way too hard to say, no, I'm going to let this go and say, if nothing happened after 4 years, then that means nothing's going to happen. It's not one of those things. So I'm worried that a lot of people listening that may have bad judgment are probably thinking, yeah, the girls are right. Like, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with this relationship. I'm going to stick in this business. But the truth is that how do you know if you have to listen to the people around you or you need to listen to your gut?
That's the thing. You don't know. Change is hard because we want to know that the decision we make is the right one, 100%.
You want the right answer.
You want to know, but there is no right answer. There is choosing something based on what you believe in the moment is what's best for you and sticking to it and being willing to change your mind with time if it doesn't work out. But in the moment, you have to make a decision. Are you going to leave the 10 years of work that you did on this one project, on this one dream, because you've worked so hard for 10 years and it's taken you away from other parts of your life and you realize it's not going to get you anywhere and leave it right there? And then in a year, find out that somebody did the exact same thing and it succeeded with them. And then you're going to sit with the regret and say, oh, if only I worked for 1 extra year on this thing, like maybe the world would have been ready for it. That might happen. And the other thing that might happen is that you realize after 10 years of investing in this and letting it go, that so many more doors opened for you. That might happen too. But in the moment when you're making the decision, there is no way for you to know. Even when you leave a bad relationship, there is no way for you to know whether had you stayed a few extra months or an extra year, that maybe that person would have decided at that point, you know what, I'm ready to settle down. I don't want to play games anymore. I want to be good to this person. You don't know what would happen. But in the moment, if your focus is to do right by yourself, it doesn't matter what the decision is. It's the right one because you are trying to meet yourself and see your own pain, this pain that has been inflicted upon you by this thing, by this person, by this job, by whatever it is, and saying it ends here. That is the right thing.
Do you think people that are able to live with their decisions are able to do so if they have faith in God and al-maktub, or I mean, do you think it's harder for atheists, let's say, because they don't believe in, my fate is in the hands of God, so it's technically not really my decision because God is going to make me decide what he wants me to decide? I wonder, like, do you think, because I mean, what we're seeing that's happening in Palestine, all of, a lot of people are, I want to say coping, it's a terrible word, but they accept because they believe that this is God's plan. So it's not really their plan. This is God's plan. It wasn't their decisions and their choices. It's God's choice. What if there is no God to some people? Do you think that it makes it like it's all on you now?
Yeah.
It's all on you, and do you think that gives them more control? Is that easier to you have agency now? All your decisions are on you. I wonder. It's tough to kind of think if you have faith.
Yeah.
You trust that this is what God intended. So no matter what, if you'd end up divorced or not, if you left the job or not, but this is what God intended. But if it's on you, does guilt kick in if you make the wrong decision?
I have a hard time with saying something like, this is what God intended. And I don't mean it to say that I don't have faith. I mean it in a way where I believe that God has given us free will to choose what we want for ourselves. So to sit stuck in your place and not do anything and say, whatever God intends will happen, is taking away from the privilege that God gave you to choose for yourself. He gave you a brain, he gave you a heart, he gave you a soul, he gave you your gut instinct. So to run away from that responsibility that you've been given to lead your life in the best way that you possibly can by saying whatever God wants will happen. It's like, but God asked you to decide what you want. Even if you're making the wrong decision, God wants you to decide. Otherwise, he wouldn't give you the ability to decide.
I love that.
So
and that's so spot on, by the way. And that's how I think too. But
yeah,
most people think, مثل ما Allah birid. This is what God decided. But the truth is, God gave you free will.
He gave you power. He gave you...
It wouldn't have existed. Like,
yeah.
You would just walk around, on autopilot if it weren't for your ability to be cognitive. I mean, we're the only species that are cognitive thinkers. Like, animals don't. They act instinctually.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because God wanted you to have that ability, to decide between right and wrong and to decide this or that, I totally see that. Yeah.
So to me, at the end of the day, self-conviction is very important. Once you decide something for yourself, you have to take responsibility for that decision, and you have to be willing to live with the consequences. Outsiders looking in at your life might judge you, and they might say, I don't think that you should have done that thing. I don't think you should be in that relationship. I don't think you should be pursuing that career. I don't think, I'm here for 4 days, and my sister just messaged me right before I came here. She's like, you should have been there for 7 days, because I was offered 7 days. So my sister she sees something in her mind as better for me, but in my mind, it's like, would I have loved to be here for 7 days? Absolutely. But I'm a very realistic person, and I'm very wise with my time. I'm going to come here, do what I have to do, and I'm sure I will be back next year. So every person in your life is going to have their own opinion about your decisions for yourself. Self-conviction is the most important thing, because once you're convinced that the decision you've made for yourself is the right one for you, and you can see everybody else's point of view, but you say, this is what I have to live with at the end of the day.
Right.
That's all that matters. People's opinions stop mattering, and it stops getting to you that they don't accept your decisions for yourself, because at some magical point in your life, once you've practiced this enough, your life becomes more important than other people's opinions on how your life should be. Your actual life, because you are the one living it. They can judge all they want. It's easy to sit on a judging panel and say your voice made a really weird noise at that point, and I didn't really like what you were wearing, and blah, blah, blah. But it's hard to actually get on stage and to perform. And that's what life is. You're getting on stage and you are performing to an audience that is... Every single person has their own opinion, and every single person thinks, I love that and I hate that, and you're never going to please everybody. So as long as your life, in your view, is more important to you than other people's opinions of how your life should be, you're going to gain so much personal freedom than you have right now, because a lot of people are stuck in people's opinions. They're stuck in people's judgments.
And in indecision.
Yes.
That's such a hard place to be.
But sometimes the indecision comes because
They need validation.
they
from
need
everyone.
validation. They need everybody to say you're okay making that decision. That's why I said you need to decide and make that decision right. And sometimes when you decide something for yourself and enough people around you don't agree with that decision for yourself, part of making the decision right is no longer giving those people influence over your life. Because all they're doing is, it's like they're posing a big obstacle in your way. And even as you're making progress in this decision, they're going to come and remind you, remember, we think you're doing something wrong. Remember. And their voices are there. And as they say, they're living in your head rent free. They are living there. They are not. My one friend always tells me every time this was in the past, we don't talk about it anymore, but every time I would complain about someone's bad-mouthing me or saying really awful things about me or backstabbing me, she would look at me and say, well, tell them that the paycheck they're giving you at the end of the month isn't something that you want anymore. And I remember the first time she said it, I was like, what are you talking about? They don't give me a paycheck. She's like, exactly. They don't pay for you to live. They don't contribute to your life. Why are they in your head? And it's like, I understand why they're in my head, because I want validation, because that was how my upbringing taught me to not be on anybody's bad side, to see myself through other people's eyes. If other people see me as good, then that means I'm good. But I can't just say I'm good on my own. So, I've learned over time to outgrow it. And sure, I still struggle sometimes, but not nearly as much as I struggled in the past. Like now, if a thought crosses my mind, like, oh, that person thinks this of you, sometimes it catches me. It feels like it's catching me at my neck and I can't breathe. The thought that someone could think of me that way. And then all I really have to do is just say to myself, this is feeling this awful right now for one of many reasons. Either you're going through something stressful in your life and your survival system is trying to shut down in some way. So it's giving you something that's going to make you give up on all the stressful stuff and say, I'm not going to do any of it anymore. Or you've been outside of your own path, and that's why your path is kind of converging with theirs again. And it's like it serves as a reminder to get back on my own path. And I just ask myself the question of, does their opinion of me serve me? Do they add anything to my life? And obviously all the answers are no. And so it's like you're bringing that opinion and the pain of the opinion to, a therapist's office, and you're the therapist and you're getting that opinion to sit in the chair across from you, and you're basically acknowledging it and saying, I see you, you're here, and I understand why you're hurting me the way that you're hurting me, but I'm the one in control. Like, you get to walk in for an hour, have a therapy session, let it all out, try to hurt me as much as you can, and then you get to leave. But I stay with myself and with my body. So back to what you were saying, when people struggle with change, indecision is a big thing. And part of getting out of indecision is putting the 2, 3, 4, however many decisions in front of you, and telling yourself, by the end of today, or by the end of this week, or by the end of this month, I need to land on one of these, instead of just going in every single direction.
I would think, people that can't make decisions, you can tell that they can't make decisions on even the smallest of things. So you'll get the call like, I sent you a WhatsApp, please check this dress or this dress. I really want to know this dress or this dress. Now, we all do that. But when it's constant on everything in their lives, and if this is any one of you listening to this, like, if you always feel like even a decision of, should I buy this or this color? Or should I get this color for my whoop or this color? Like, I don't know, let me ask my husband, let me ask my friend. Like, if it's always not enough to trust your own decision making, and you need at least one other person to kind of say, okay, fine, right decision or wrong decision, then maybe start there. Like, how do I start making decisions in my life, as much as it's taunting me, without picking up the phone and asking somebody? And maybe you build that muscle. I think most things are a muscle, like how to make decisions is a muscle. Doing things that are uncomfortable is a muscle. It doesn't ever come easy. And like you said at the beginning, even if it looks or appears easy on other people, they either have done it so many times that now they understand what's on the other side, so they're resilient to the resistance, or they just...
They know how to hide it very well.
Or they just know how to hide it. Yeah. I mean, or they rationalize through it, like, okay, fine, whatever, or they mask it because they think they need to put on an act, or maybe they do need to be the person that's in control for their family, for their friends, so they have to pretend like they've got this, And maybe you don't need to pretend. You can have your heart on your sleeve, and you can always say that, oh my God, this is so hard, but somebody else, maybe the words can't come out, and because they have other people looking up to them to lead,
relying on them.
So yeah, I mean,
I agree with you. I think sometimes what happens is certain people think that emotions are a weakness. Showing them, expressing them, being in the presence of them. Many people don't know how to deal. Like, if I sat and cried in front of you right now, I'm sure you would be able to hold space for me. A lot of people don't know how to react when somebody expresses
like they're there.
Such a strong emotion, like crying or getting so angry at something and just letting it out, not on you, but to you. And so when it comes to change, if they can logic their way through it, rationalize it without involving emotion, they are completely fine. Like, they know. Like, I'll give you an example in the past where I got offered 2 speaking opportunities at the same time, and one of them paid less, but it was a cause that I was so much more passionate about, and one of them paid more, but it was just something very businessy that I wasn't really passionate about. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and my friend was like, just go for the one that pays you more. Like, to me, it doesn't sound like something you should contemplate. And it goes back to a person's value system. What's more important to them? Going back to the conversation we were having about men and money and how they feel more insecure if they don't make as much as others, or as much as their partner, or as much as they believe they need to make. I don't think it's about money. I think it's about power. Because money is power. It all comes down to power. And I think it's a mixture of society. It's a mixture of the patriarchy. It's a mixture of their family's upbringing. It's all of that together that's telling them, you are a man, therefore you need power. Money is power. That's how you get things in life. That's how you get people in life. But I'm going to tell you something about myself. I will always, I don't know if you're like me, but I will always choose love over money. Always. To me, it's not something that I would even think of. It's not something.
100%.
Yeah. Money is, it comes into one hand and it goes out the other.
Yeah.
I will always choose health over money. I will always choose, to me, money is something you can attain. And
so true.
It's hard to find true, genuine love. It's hard to find people who genuinely see you for who you are. It's hard to find people who like look at you with your good and your bad and your past and your traumas and say, I love you as you are. I don't care how much money a person has.
And then it's so true. You know that it's a fact that I realized something, that neither me nor my friends, my tight girlfriend circle, have ever dated a wealthy man or a rich man, not on purpose, but because we all share the same value system.
Yes.
And we all look for the same thing in a man. We look for a partner, someone who's lighthearted, who's fun and who's easy and who's vulnerable and who's open and who would love me at my ugliest and love me at my most insecure and where I'm not loving myself really.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you're in a position of wealth, aka power,
Yes.
you lose sight of those things.
You do.
And your personality attracts a different crowd. Your intentions are a little bit different. Very rarely do I ever meet anyone. I don't even think I've ever really met someone that's like the power and wealth, like really rich, and who also has that side. So it just so happened that every time a really wealthy man would have hit on me in the past, just like, dude, no. Not because of his money, but because all his personality traits and characteristics are not aligned with what I want
Yeah.
in a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just not attracted to him anymore. So the
Mhm.
money is, obviously everybody wants to be comfortable, but thankfully I can make my own money. So that's not the issue. But it's always the idea that it's like the 6th, 7th, 10th thing down the list. There's so many more important things. And when you do reach that, very rarely do people really remember the true value of a relationship and a partnership,
Mhm.
and it just becomes about status and what we can show, and you end up losing everything else that matters.
Well, look at Princess Diana.
For example,
She married into money. She was a princess. She
Yeah.
had everything she wanted, but she was one of the most visibly in
Miserable.
pain people
Yeah.
ever. You could see it on her face without her saying a word. You hear people say things like, yeah, money isn't everything, but it feels better to cry in a Bentley than it does to cry in like a cheaper car or whatever. Sure, for that cry. But in the grand scheme of things, what has material wealth changed for you in your actual understanding of yourself and the world and in your value system and in your core? Like, we always talk about glow ups and people see them as physical glow ups, but what about your soul glow up? What about your internal glow up? To me, that's not something that requires money. Sure, you can tell me a therapist costs money and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's the work you do on your own when nobody's watching, when nobody's listening, when nobody is holding you accountable, when you are the one holding you accountable. That's the work that actually changes you at the end of the day. So whatever a person's values are, their life is going to reflect that. There's many trends on TikTok, on all of social media, where women will say things like, girls, even the ugly ones, cheat. Like, date the hot guy and, they're going to get cheated on anyway. And I laugh when I see those things, but I'm just like, why do we think that way? Like, why is it that we're entering relationships just looking to protect ourselves from the worst case scenario and therefore saying, well, you know what, they all cheat, so let me just date for money. Let me get as much as I possibly can. Or they all cheat, let me just have fun. And why have we stopped looking for actual genuine connections? Because if you're going into, this is the truth, if you are going into a relationship already thinking of the worst case scenario and trying to protect yourself from it, are you actually going to show up as the best version of yourself? You're going in protecting yourself. You're also not going to be vulnerable. And when you are, you're going to do it to weaponize it to, in a way, either make them feel bad for you or try to get their love in a way that you probably shouldn't. But you're also not going to show up as you are. So if they're not showing up as they are and you're not showing up as you are, that's a failed relationship from the beginning.
Absolutely.
If you go in assuming the worst in a person, trust me, that worst is going to come out because people meet you where you're willing to meet them. So if you stay down here with your expectations of them, you're constantly thinking something bad is going to happen. They're going to cheat on me. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And they're here and they're craving for your attention in some way. Eventually, they're going to come down to where you are and they're going to meet you there. And this is not to say I'm blaming the person who has been cheated on. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying if you're going in and your expectations are that low, your expectations are going to get met at some point.
Absolutely.
So go in with the high expectations of this person will open up to me over time. This person will show me who they are, just like they will hold space for me when I show them who they are. Have the highest expectations and say to yourself, I might invest a year or 2 or 5 or 10 in this person and then one day find out that they were betraying me this entire time. One day find out they were lying about who they really are or lying about their intentions. But that doesn't mean that my decision to show up as I am and my decision to actually invest in this person was the wrong one.
Absolutely. I talk about this a lot actually with my husband. I mean, with him. You know, I don't ever do the thing where I scroll through my husband's phone or any of my exes or like obsess about where they are, what they're doing, who they're talking to. Check. I never, ever have. Not because I am naive to think it may never happen, like it would never happen on me. I trust that it won't. But I also say, why am I going to bother my energy right now with something that may or may not happen and lose sleep over it? Put my energy in that direction,
Yes.
kind of manifest it because I'm really exerting energy there, controlling a situation that's not really in my control, not letting them be who they want to be, as I'm kind of trying to control the situation so they don't potentially do. So I have to get their password, see who they're following, what photos they're liking. If I'm trying so hard to control something so that it doesn't happen, as opposed to just letting them be who they want to be.
And deciding whether you want them or not.
Yes, that idea is, I always say this, I want you to do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always love at my full capacity and give at my full capacity until the day you are undeserving of it, if ever.
Yes.
And when that happens, I will deal with that later. If I ever find out you cheated because it came to me as it should, not me going and snooping around for it, or you hurt me, you betrayed me, you talked about whatever. If one of those things happen with a friend or with work or whatever, it should come to you and not live a life where you're snooping for it or trying to control other people's decisions and how they treat you and behave with you. It's such a hard place to be when you're always on alert, and you don't just live in the confidence that
just let things be.
Let things be.
Yes.
Just let them, let things be. And you can kind of, who said let them recently? Someone said something about let them?
Yes.
Mel Robbins. I just
wrote
remember, I said
book.
let them, and I just remember. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's in every scenario. The idea of let them be who they want to be, let them show you their true colors. And if they're going to choose to do that, then inevitably it will come to you that you're not supposed to be with this person.
Absolutely.
Why control it so much,
Yes.
It's very tiring to live that way.
Yes, it is very tiring to constantly monitor the person
and be
that you're with.
untrusting and be,
Yes.
and if you're feeling untrusting, maybe there's something wrong in that relationship.
Yes.
Like you shouldn't, that feeling should not be there where I can't sleep without thinking that my husband in some shape or form is going to hurt me. That should not be the reality.
And if you are thinking that, you need to ask yourself where that's coming from. Because I'm usually on the other side of things where I help people who are struggling with these kinds of behavior understand why they're struggling with it and learn how to leave those patterns and behaviors behind.
Do you think it's because of what they've been through, or is it really the other the person they're in a relationship with?
Sometimes you become overly controlling with the person that you're with because of something they did, where they broke your trust and there wasn't a genuine attempt at repairing what broke. So you because of how painful that break that they caused was for you, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that they never do that again. That's why you start monitoring their phone. That's why you start asking, where are you? And when are you coming home? And who are you with? And what did you say? And what did they say? And what happened here? And what happened there? Or you become hypersensitive to their mood, and you think, oh, their mood shifted that way last time before they did that thing that really hurt me. And so you start anticipating, but it's out of a protective place. You're not doing it to actually hurt them, but you end up hurting them and yourself in the process.
Yeah.
But to live in a way where your mood is directly affected by what you find on their phone or what you don't find on their phone is like saying my whole life is based on you, not on me. My whole life is based on whether I go through your phone and I see that you looked someone up or you didn't. Like, I'm going to be sad one way, hurt one way, and happy the other way. But it's all based on your behavior, not based on mine. So there is a huge element of self-abandonment that happens in relationships when I'm not going to use the word break, where a certain breach of trust happens and there isn't a genuine attempt to repair that breach in trust. And because there isn't an attempt to repair it, you become the one who's making sure that it never happens again, just to protect yourself and to protect the relationship, because you don't want to leave, but you also don't want to go through that pain again. So you try your best to never let it happen again, but you have to remember that you're not the person who decided to break your own trust in the first place. They made that decision, and they have the power to make it again and again and again and again. Why do you have to constantly anticipate it? Yes, you're trying to protect yourself. We know that on a logical level. But are you really protecting yourself, or are you exposing yourself to more pain? Are you really protecting yourself, or are you wasting your time that you could be spending understanding all the parts of you that accepted that breach in trust, all the parts of you that think that maybe you deserve to have your trust broken, instead of using all your time to be going inward and understanding yourself, your worth, what you deserve, what you always thought you deserved, and what you now know you deserve, you're spending all your time instead putting all your energy into them. And it's wasting your time, it's wasting your life, and it's making you live literally like a leech on someone. You're living through them. You're not living your own life, and that's not fair to you at all. It's not fair to them, but that's a different story. It's not fair to you. So I was just going to say, the hardship in, like, you hear the words, let them. Of course, let them be who they are. Let them keep what they took from you. Let them live their life the way that they want to. Let them lie to you. Let them betray you. Sure, we say those things and they're freeing to hear. But to actually do it, when you look at that person, you're like, after this many years you're doing this? I'm sorry, but you have the right to feel that pain. You do. You have the right to look at the person and say, you have every right to do what you want. But really? Like, you decided to do this after everything we've been through, after everything we've sacrificed for each other, after you said that thing or you did that thing. Really? Like, the person who's at the other end has the right to feel that pain, and they have the right to take some time in letting this new version of the person that they're showing you they are become clear inside of you. Because for so long, you've known them as a certain way. You've known them as someone who would never hurt you in that way. And then all of a sudden they did. And all of a sudden you're supposed to just like with a snap of a finger be like, oh, that's who they are now. I'm okay with it. No, life doesn't work that way.
You're right. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, when I say the idea of let them,
I'm not saying that that's what you were
no,
saying.
No, I know, but like I'm glad that
adding.
you're explaining that, because it's true. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that just let them, and life goes on. Like
Life
you
doesn't
kind of
work
don't
that way.
want to feel the pain. Like, fuck it. Why am I just gonna let them so that I can be in pain later, right? So there's kind of that, but I'll tell you why I'm saying this. I'll take you back to an example with me.
Yeah.
I was dating a guy 5 years. He ended up doing something kind of like he lost my trust. Not a cheating thing, but I lost my trust. I kind of second guessed whether he did or didn't. I wasn't aware that he cheated, but it was just a weird thing where he wasn't picking up when I was calling, and you kind of don't know what the situation is. And then they gaslight you. They tell you like, oh my God, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? I was just doing this. So you start doubting yourself. Like, is it me? Am I weird? Am I controlling? Whatever. Fast forward, we ended up kind of sticking it through. And I had this thing bugging me, and it kept like pestering me. I'm like, listen, did you or didn't you in that period? I need to know. And he kept denying it. He's like, no, I didn't. Tracy, you're psycho. Please stop doing this. Oh my God, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was one of those. I'm like, after like 3, 4, 5 months of every now and then we're having dinner, I'm like, honestly, look, we're good now. I just really need to know. And it was just driving me insane. I'm like, I need to know. And I feel this thing and I don't know. And at some point, coming to the let them, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to say this once and for all. I don't know why this is pestering me, and it's really, really sitting with me. And I don't know why I can't let it go, because I just feel like it's not closed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're constantly making me feel like I'm crazy for a period that I believe I wasn't. But anyway, today is the last I ever bring it up. But I am telling you that if this ever comes out, which it will, everything comes out in the end. And it will. And this is not a conversation that you had with me after the 50 times I tried to bring it up with you.
Yes.
If it ever comes up, I'll quote myself, I will drop you like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me now at any quiet time, maybe I can work through it and we can have a discussion, but I will not be okay finding out after all this time that there was something and you have been lying to my face the whole time. His reaction was, oh my God, you're crazy. I swear you're crazy. I'm like, okay, I'm crazy. Nothing to worry about, okay? Because if you did nothing, then what I just said is like the crazy bitch talking, right?
Yeah.
She just said that thing. And if you did something, then you should be very afraid. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. I swear to you. He treated me like a princess for the whole year. We were great. Top of our game. Had a great relationship. We both traveled together to Lebanon to visit our family. When I landed there, I went out for lunch with friends, and one of them said to me, I need to tell you something.
Oh, God.
So and so
Every
and so
girl knows
with
this
his
moment.
ex-girlfriend, like a affair. It wasn't like a one-off thing, with an affair with his ex-girlfriend who I know and I used to say hello to and all of that. And I'm like, no way. After a year, and this is when we were at the top of our game, so there was no issue. Literally sent a text saying, I told you everything comes out in the end. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Never picked up, never answered, not because I was tough. I was crying like a baby. Like I was like all over the place in tears. But you know what I was crying about? How did he just lie to my face like that over and over again? Not the cheating, not the affair. I don't even think I thought about that. It was you were in front of me, looking at me, telling me I'm crazy. Like,
so now
how
you question
dare you?
everything he ever told you because you believed everything else he ever told you.
Man, it's insane. Yeah. But that's why I say the let them is that period.
Mm-hmm.
When I had said, you know what, I'm not, when it wants to come out, it will come out. That's why I say that, because I saved myself a whole year of drama. Of like, did you? I didn't have to do that because it found me later. And yes, it hurt like a bitch and it sucks. And I wish it never happened that way. But I'm glad that I knew sooner or later so that I could move on. But to try to control a thing that he's not being honest, I don't know, is it true, is it not? It's just such a suffering way to live.
It is.
It's tough, you know?
It is. And honestly, one of the hardest things, a person who's never gone through an experience of being gaslit by someone will never understand what it's like to have somebody look you in your eyes and like with their loving eyes and tell you that nothing happened, that it's all in your head, that there's nothing more shattering than they're giving you 1000% assurance, but there's something in your gut that's telling you something's off here. But you choose to trust them over yourself, over your gut, because you're like, they're being honest, but something inside of you isn't sitting right.
Yeah.
And then the moment that you find the truth out, whether someone brings it to you or you find it on their phone or however it is that you find out the truth, it literally feels like you had a knot inside of you for so long and all of a sudden it came loose.
It
Like
was
you
kind of liberating,
Yeah.
weirdly enough. As
Yeah.
painful as it was like I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not crazy felt better than the idea that I just got
Yes.
cheated on. Like, at
Yes.
least I'm not fucking crazy, you know?
Yes.
It's crazy. I mean, this happened, what? I want to say I was 22, 25 or something. Yeah. And imagine I'm 38 now. And still, if I think about it, I'm like, shit, that was insane to go through. It's tough, you know?
It is, yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Like, you can imagine people, and there are a lot of young girls at 20 and something thinking like their life is going to be over.
Mhm.
And it's like,
It messes you up.
it messes you up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't if you just do the work again. And we all have to go through this kind of pain and these changes, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so there are some passages in your book that I
Mhm.
loved, and I'm going to kind of read one out or a couple out, and then we can
Sure.
talk about it a bit.
Yes.
So the only constant, if you guys haven't picked it up, please do. It's such a beautiful, I love the way you write, Najwa.
Thank
You have
you.
like it. Sometimes you say a thing that people always talk about, but just your choice of words, that's how words work. I mean, they resonate when you say it in the way that I can hear it, and it kind of clicks.
Mhm.
Many other people can say it in a different way, but then some person says it in a way and it's just like, shit, that makes so much sense, right?
Mhm.
So, you said, my therapist said, have you considered that maybe you're not choosing to abandon yourself and that maybe your body is choosing what it believes is the safest
Mhm.
choice for it? Change is hard because we judge ourselves for the choices our bodies make.
Mhm.
Even when change is the logical solution that will get you in the inner peace you desire, your
Mhm.
body will resist.
Yes.
That's because your body quite literally feels safer in the presence of the source of pain than when
Mhm.
it's disconnected from the source of pain. I will give you a
Mhm.
minute to read that again. Can you walk me through that?
Yes. This was at a time when I was judging myself a lot for knowing better and not being able to do better. And I think every single person who knows that the world looks at them as strong and intelligent and wise goes through this. Because everyone looks at you and says, I would never believe that you would be someone who accepts being treated that way because you know better, you're smart.
Mm.
And so you are listening to these people saying these things to you and you think, well, I better not let anybody know what I'm going through. And then, when you're isolated, that's when shame grows. And so you further start talking to yourself in a way that says, something absolutely must be wrong with me. Because yes, I do know better, but why am I not able to do better? Like, I know this friendship is toxic. Why can't I end it? Why is it that I actually want their approval more? Because they're bad to me, because they don't treat me right. Why do I want to change their mind about me so badly? I know this relationship is bad for me. Why am I not able to end it? I know that this family member has dug a hole into my chest over the years with the way that they talk down to me and criticize me, and nothing's ever good enough for them. But it's that family member whose approval I want the most. Why? Like, why do I know logically, but I can't do? And so
Or
my
when you feel
therapist,
silence, like they're yelling at you and you're just like, I know I should speak up. I know I should
But
say
but you're
something, but I feel
scared.
paralyzed.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're
Yeah.
damned if you stay quiet, because at the end of the day, you sit with yourself and you say, I can't believe I stayed quiet.
Mm.
And you're damned if you don't. So then if you're not going silent and you're saying something, you're in trouble.
Mm.
And you might feel like they might leave you. And even though they're not treating you right, whoever they are, you're afraid that you might get fired. You're afraid you might get broken up with. You're afraid that your family's going to disown you, whatever it is. But it's like, why are you afraid that the wrong person is going to let you go?
Mm-hmm.
Logically, you say that, but your body's like, I don't know. Like, I just want that so badly, right? So I'm saying these things to my therapist, and she goes, have you considered that it's not just your mind, it's not just your head that makes you who you are? Like, stop staying up here. Your whole body makes a choice. Have you considered that your body also makes a choice? And there's a disconnect between the choice that your mind is making and the choice that your body's making. But your mind isn't even allowing your body a choice. Your mind is just saying, what the hell is wrong with you? Why aren't you doing what we know is the right thing to do?
Mm.
Your body has been with you and has operated with you since the moment you took your first breath on this earth. It knows what feels good. It knows what feels bad. It knows what's dangerous. It knows how to survive. So if your body knows that its survival is by staying quiet, your mind might say, we can talk now. We're an adult. We're independent. We make our own money. We don't care if this person leaves us behind. Your body's going to be like, no, this is how we survive, by staying quiet.
Mm.
So when she said that to me, I honestly felt like the way I described it, and the only constant was, it felt like my soul left my body, but then perfectly snapped right back in. Like, I felt like all of a sudden I was in my body, and I could feel its pain saying to me, like, I'm the reason that you're not able to let go of all of these people who are mistreating you in your life. It's me, because in my view, this is how I've always survived, by trying harder, by pleasing people, by changing their opinions of me. I've never survived by walking away. So maybe we need to learn to survive in that way. So that's where that comes from.
What is the protocol? How do you, when you do understand that your body's also paralyzed or feeling trapped and not able to make the decision that your mind was already made up, but your body's unable to follow in time? What's the protocol to move past?
The protocol is, instead of going up to your mind when you are presented with that same situation, whether it's what you just the example you just gave, when somebody's talking down to you, for example, instead of saying, what should we do up here, as in what should we say in return, or what they're saying doesn't make sense, or it's not true, therefore I shouldn't believe it, or whatever, go inward and ask yourself, how does this feel, and where do I feel it? And a lot of times in moments like that, you can't feel anything. Your whole body feels numb because you're in shock that they actually spoke to you in the way that you did. But if you were to close your eyes and go inward and ask, where do I feel something? You might start sensing tension. For me in particular, it happens in my arms, it happens in my upper back, and I get tightness in my chest. So that's my body pinpointing me to all the places that every single time I am treated in such a way, those are the parts in my body where the pain is stored. That's where my traumas are stored from years and years and years and years. And they're unresolved, they're unliberated, and that's why they hurt every single time something like this happens, something familiar happens. So when you start identifying where that tension is or whatever, you ask yourself, how do I soothe it? So if you're having tightness in your chest, how can you soothe it? You can soothe it by taking in deep breaths and taking your time with the breath instead of just, breathing quickly like you normally do. be intentional with breathing, taking in deeper breaths, and notice how you will feel liberated and you will feel safe in your own body instead of feeling like you have no control over your body, where your mind is saying, let's walk to the door and get out, maybe for a walk. And your body's like cement in the ground because you haven't asked it what's wrong with it. But when you start calming it down on your own, you're kind of telling your body, I'm here. I see you and I see all the pain that you've been going through over the years that I haven't been tending to, and I'm listening to you right now. So your body will aid you in knowing what to do next. Once you've calmed down your breathing, you will feel like you have more energy to maybe go to another room or maybe go for a walk or maybe go for a drive. It'll guide you to what the next step is that you need. But the more and more that you tap into your body instead of judging it based on what you know, based on what you read in a book or based on logic or wisdom or hearing someone telling you a sentence that you should live by and you're like, that sounds so liberating, but what about all of this? You are telling your body, I am going to heal with you. And I'm telling you, I've had experiences where I've started having like pain around my eye as I tuned into my body and asked where the pain was. And I couldn't understand where that pain was coming from. And one time with my therapist, she was guiding me through some body work, and she was like, where do you think? And it was pain around this eye in particular, not this one. I'm like, what's going on? Like, where is this coming from? And it's like a flash of a story came in front of me, and it was from when I was a teenager, and I had this infection in my eye for like over a year when I was living in Lebanon, and my parents were living in Canada, and I never really picked up the phone and said, hey, I think something's wrong with my eye or whatever. That's how little I felt I deserved to be taken care of at such a young age. And and people would make fun of me. Friends would make fun of me because my eye always looked like I had a lazy eye, but I didn't. I had some kind of an infection. And so the story that I was telling my therapist about that brought that pain up was a story from my present, where I felt like I was being made fun of by the friends around me.
And it triggered
that memory from when I was a teenager. And I cried so much. And my therapist had me, she had me sit with my teenage self and sit at her level and ask her how she's actually feeling. Like, not adult me, not 34-year-old me, 13, 14-year-old me, and ask her what she's going through, what she's feeling, and validate that for her. And it was honestly one of the best experiences ever. And
did the pain go on the spot?
It went like as we were doing the activity,
Wow.
And I cried a lot, and I felt like whatever it was that was stored in there just came out.
Yeah.
And it was, I know some people listening might be like, oh, that just sounds like a load of crap, but it's not.
It's not.
You know, it's something that your body actually went through and experienced, and somewhere there was a pain that was stored that never had the chance to be cured and healed. And maybe the cure was you sitting with it and saying, I'm sorry that at the time there was nothing I could do, but there is something I could do now, and I promise you that I will never neglect an illness that you go through, or, you know, like the way it's manifested into my life is every single time something happens with my eyes, with anything in my body, I'm at the doctor's office immediately. Like, that's how I make up for the
not
past.
attending to
Yes.
her.
Or feeling like I don't deserve to be tended to, is that I've made that promise to myself to take care of myself. So the answer to honoring the choices that your body makes is to not always go up here to your mind and say, what do we know? This is all we're going to judge ourselves based on. Instead of doing that, you say there is also a whole body that lives with us that feels safe doing certain things and doesn't feel safe doing other things. Like, how many times have you decided that you were going to conquer a fear of yours, and then right when you get there, your body just freezes into the ground and you're like, what's wrong with me? Like, I should be able to do this. Why can't I?
Yeah.
Your body's not ready. There's something unresolved inside of it. So you go inward. Yeah.
I love that so much. Without awareness, you will be ruled by your subconscious beliefs. Authenticity is the goal. When you don't know who you are, or worse, when you don't accept who you are, you simply don't seek change for yourself. You seek change in order to alter the way that others see you because you are seeking their acceptance, because their acceptance feels better than your own acceptance.
Yes. When you don't know who you are, you see yourself through other people's eyes. If you don't have a solid understanding of who you are that you can go to at the end of the day, you are looking for labels from everyone around you to feel like you are good enough. So you're seeing yourself through their eyes, which means what they think makes you worthy is what you start thinking makes you worthy. So you start working toward meeting their definition of what would make you worthy. What about your own definition? How do you know that their definition for you is the right one for you? Even if they're your family. Sometimes people outside of us think that we are worthy if we make them look better. So we are not part of the equation.
And also that part of self-awareness is also very intriguing. Like, without awareness, you'll be ruled by your subconscious beliefs. So everything that they told you and what they think of you, it's all in the subconscious of what you believe to be the
truth.
The truth. But it starts with, awareness of like, and you also talked about like, you don't need to know who you are or what you want to be. You just need to do the change first. You can't just say, but I don't know who I am yet. Therefore, I can't make any change. Like, I'm still discovering where I want to be, what I want to do, who I want to love, what person I am, who am I. But hit home because it's so true. Like, the only way you're going to know is if you make moves first, like the change first, the hobby first, the thing that's uncomfortable first, and then you may discover what you want to do. Just like you were writing this book versus what you were doing when you were younger. I mean, you changed career paths entirely at 26, right?
Yes.
As an example, relationships, who you are, who the person you want to be. And that resonates with me so much because I honestly, if I could look back, and it's all in hindsight for me, who I am and what I've done is all thanks to the first move I did. And then saying, oh shit, I actually liked podcasting. Okay, good. So let me do more of that. I can actually speak on a stage. Okay, because the first time I did it, I was so scared. But then I'm like, okay, I stumbled a bit. That was a bit awkward, but I like it. I'm going to try to do a bit more of this. And everything I did, whether it's in my gym or at sports or whatever, it was always the first time where I'm like, I really don't want to do this. I think I'm going to be really bad at it, but it's kind of intriguing, so I'm going to give it a shot. A lot of people want to know who they are first before they make any decisions, which goes back to you want the decision to be clear, the end of the road. You want to know where it is before you make the choices to go for it.
If the decision is that clear and whether it's right or wrong for you is that clear, then it's just a safe option. And hardly ever are the right things for us or the radical changes that we need to make in our lives ones that are safe. They're not safe. They don't feel safe because they're taking us outside of our comfort zone.
I think Simon Sinek said it's usually the hard decisions that are the right decisions.
Yes.
And when they feel so hard, should I tell them the truth about my I don't know, my affair? Should I tell them? Should I leave this job that I hate? It's so damn hard. And
Yeah.
usually the hard decisions are the right thing to do.
Yes. I recently posted on Instagram, always choose uncomfortable honesty over convenient lying. And that's the same thing with all these big decisions. Sometimes we don't want to make them because we know that it's just so much harder to confront the truth than it is to just push it to the side and say, I see you there, but I'm
I don't
not
want
going
to
to
deal with it
confront
right
you.
now.
Yeah, I'm just going to, but it's there, right? And you're aware of it, and you're constantly aware that you're not doing the right thing for yourself or for the people around you, but you just don't want to deal with it.
Mm.
But so it's in both ways you're uncomfortable, but are you uncomfortable in a familiar way or in a very unfamiliar way,
Mm.
which is telling the truth,
Mm.
right? But I want to go back to what you were saying about people figuring themselves out or who they are out before they make these big changes. I always say you can be someone who is in the process of figuring yourself out. You don't have to. Sometimes you can't figure out who you are unless you try things
Mhm.
and they work or they don't work. Uh, You can't. It's like trying to carve out a statue without actually carving it like out.
Mhm.
You can't do that. You need the changes, you need the pain, you need the fine-tunement of trying things and failing and trying again and succeeding another time or failing another time. You need to do the work to figure out who you are.
Mm.
And so I don't define myself as someone who knows who I am. I would say I'm someone who is I know myself in the moment, but there's still a lot for me to learn as long as I'm alive, as long as I'm writing, as long as I'm living life, I'm changing and I'm figuring out who I am day by day. There are times when stories from the past come up for me and I'm like, where did this come from? Like I thought this never bothered me, but clearly it did.
Mhm.
And maybe now I'm at a place in my healing where my body feels safe to bring it up and say, hey, this thing that we've had buried for so long, now is the time for it. Like, I know you can handle it.
Mm.
So don't put too much pressure on yourself to know who you are before you know that the decisions you're making for yourself are the right ones for you, because a decision can be right for you even if you're in a state of feeling like you're shaky or you're uncertain. You'll always know that it's the right decision when you are thinking of yourself and what's in your best interest. And that doesn't require that you fully know who you are,
Mm-mm.
because like you might not know who you are up here in a way where you can say it out loud, but you know who you are. You know deep down when something wrong is happening in your life. You know deep down when someone's lying to you. You know deep down when you are being taken for granted. Even if you don't have a solid feeling of who am I, you know. You have that inner wisdom inside of you, so you need to trust it. So, and a question I would pose to any person who says, I don't know if I'm the right one to make a decision for myself because I don't know who I am. So if you don't know who you are, how do you know that anyone knows who you are? Like, why do you trust another person to make a decision for you, but you won't trust yourself to make a decision for you?
Mhm.
Why is it that we give people grace when they lead us somewhere and it's the wrong place? But if we lead ourselves somewhere and it's the wrong place, we're like, see, I knew it, you were stupid. But you would never say that to another person whose opinion you took or whose
Absolutely.
advice you took. So give yourself the same grace. And instead of relying on people to lead you to where you think you want to be, rely on yourself. It's a billion times harder because you're the one in the driver's seat. You're the one who doesn't know where you're going, but you're choosing to move forward anyway. there's an analogy that I give in The Only Constant where I say moving towards, the product of the change or that final outcome is kind of like driving on a foggy road. You can only see like a meter ahead of you, but you know that that patch of fog is going to end and then another one's going to come. And you know that one's going to, like, you can get through it. You can get to the other side. You don't know what's on the other side, but you're going to keep going. You trust in your ability to keep going. And instead of saying, there's a patch of fog, I'm going to stop on the side of the road and just wait until it's gone. Or I'm going to stop on the side of the road and then I'm going to turn around. And you don't do that. You understand that if you're taking a new path that you've never been on, it's going to be scary. It's going to have obstacles in the way because you've never been on it before. It's just how life works.
Yeah. I'll end it with that thing actually you said, which is nail on the head. Let me find it. I have it over here. Moving forward, remove your expectation that change will be easy. Tell yourself, this is hard, and I can do it anyway.
Yes.
So true. I mean, there's the difference between stress and pressure. Like, you either look at it as stress of life or you look at it as the pressure of life. And pressure is sometimes necessary, for you to kind of, to nudge you to kind of move forward and to like help you in your direction. You need to feel the pressure of like, there is that light at the end of the tunnel. There is the possibility to get that job. There is the pressure for me to, do better. And you have that expectation of yourself and where you want to be. So it's going to feel like pressure. But as long as I think what you said is so true, that if you realize that, yes, it is hard. Like, no one's lying to you and saying, no, come on, you can do it anyway. It's not hard. You have to change. You need to move. Just acknowledging the hard gives you the space to say, okay, good. It's hard on everyone else too. So I'll just have to do it anyway because it's hard anyway. It's hard on everybody. It doesn't single me out for my weakness. That's so key. And it's a very important thing to kind of recognize.
Yes. It's also important to recognize that staying in the same place is hard too.
Yeah. Like, choose your hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You hear it everywhere. Yeah. It's hard to stay in your place and it's hard to move forward. Which hard do you want? They're both hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, show is called What They Don't Tell Us.
Yes.
I know it's tough because you've learned a lot along the years, but if there's anything that kind of sits with you now that now that you wish you would have known before, what don't they tell us? That is hard.
But I know the answer and I'm trying to get the right words for it. They don't tell us that sometimes people know that they're hurting us. They're intentionally hurting us. And that it's not just all in our heads. Sometimes we have the right to take things personally. Sometimes we are being targeted, and it doesn't make us a bad person to look at someone and say, that really hurt. And I know you meant it. And I don't believe that you deserve this place in my life that I gave you. That's what they don't tell us. Yeah.
I love you. You're awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. I had a lot of fun, and it was just very nice to have a chat with you about all of this.
It's long overdue.
Seriously, long overdue. I'm so glad you messaged, and good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Tomorrow.